touching the lives of local people every day.
Hello and welcome to Business Extra. You join us tonight at Fuel Studios on Pottergate in Norwich, which is a hub for startup businesses in the city. Tonight we're talking about the millennial generation, startups, and maybe what millennials could teach the older generation who've maybe been in business just that little bit longer. I'm joined by Jessie and by Lauren from Flibl, who are one of the companies who are based here. We'll be talking to them in just a moment, but first let's get the business headlines from the week.
First tonight, some good news for workers at Swinton Insurance's call centre in Norwich. It had been down for closure, but it's being taken over by another insurance company. Norfolk insurance broker Adrian Flux is to take over the lease on the Rosary Road Centre currently run by Swinton and has offered jobs to all 146 employees, with 117 having already accepted. Adrian Flux say the move ended their search for a new office. A 10-year lease has been agreed on the building and refurbishment is expecting to start at the end of the year. Norfolk company Norse is reporting a strong start to the financial year, saying they've already brought on board £5 million worth of new work. Norse Commercial Services' new contracts takes their forward orders to nearly £15 million in the first 3 months of the financial year. They provide contract services including building and grounds maintenance, cleaning, catering and security, and have order books in excess of £2 billion. West has met East this week after a delegation of guests from Exeter came to visit our region. The group went to the Centre for Environment, Fisheries and Aquaculture Science in Lowestoft and Norwich Research Park to find out more about the work that happens at the sites and trade opportunities. The trip was organised by Exeter Connects and Norwich Connects with support from the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. New regulations are going to be coming in for businesses in Norwich city centre who use advertising A-boards. Last year the City Council approved the measures and now businesses have been sent letters to say they'll be coming in from August. There will now be new restrictions about how many they can have and where they can go, and the businesses must also have suitable public liability insurance. There's been complaints in recent years the streets were getting cluttered with too many and there were danger to people who've got problems with their vision. Abellio Greater Anglia, the people who operate our trains in Norwich and Norfolk, say they've now recorded record levels of customer satisfaction. The latest industry-wide rail passenger survey has their figure at a record high of 83%, up from 77% last spring. The figures are put out by Transport Focus in the National Rail Passenger Survey. The company's putting it down to improvements and investment in reliability, customer service and station facilities. And finally, it's hoped a new tourism video could help to bring more visitors and their business to Norwich. It's been made for the Cathedral by BAFTA award-winning filmmaker Rob Whitworth in a style known as flow motion.
Norwich is such a great place for a short break, and the video demonstrates that just by showing how beautiful the place is. We then lead them into other content that shows why it's such a great place to come shopping, great place for culture, great place to eat and drink, and just great place to relax.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, we're talking millennials, we're talking startup businesses, and also what the new generation of entrepreneurs could maybe teach people who've been in the game a little bit longer. Now, as we said earlier, we are at Flibl, which is a startup in Norwich on Pottergate. I'm joined by Jessie and Lauren. Flibl, apart from being a particularly amusing word and a good name, I suppose, for a business, what actually is it? What exactly is it that you do here?
So we're a communications consultancy, and more recently we've also become a learning provider. So essentially we do things like writing, editing and research for a broad base of clients.
Okay, but Jessie, let's look at your background. Why do a startup here? What was the appeal of doing this in Norwich?
Oh, well, I grew up in Norwich and I studied at the University of East Anglia. So after I graduated, I started working with local businesses and never really found a reason to leave.
That's always a good enough reason. Lauren, your background primarily is in freelance writing, I understand. You've worked all over, so what was the appeal of bringing this to Norwich when you've worked in so many different places?
Well, Jessie and I both actually travelled the world as digital nomads, meaning that we just sort of did our work with a laptop, moving from country to country before we started the company. And it felt really natural to kind of come back home when we decided that we wanted to build something, to try and offer opportunities to other young people around, and to try and build something that we kind of wished existed when we were growing up here.
Because both of you are in your mid-20s, of the infamous millennial generation, I suppose. I guess I'm at the other end of that slightly, without going into how old I am. But the millennial generation gets a lot of stick at the moment. Do you feel a lot of that is fair, particularly when they're starting up businesses, Jesse?
I think millennials face the same challenges that older generations face in their time. Obviously the economy has changed slightly and the nature of technology has changed the way we work, but we're just still trying to do the best we can and get on and create opportunities for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And did you find that as well, Lauren? People might say, well, you're in your 20s, you're of a generation that's frankly getting a bit of stick from the older generations. How does that feel when you're starting up in that situation?
I think it can be a concern that you won't be taken seriously, but we take a really collaborative approach to our work, both with clients and with team members, etc. So for us, it's actually a really interesting challenge, and I guess in a way a communications challenge, which is exactly what we specialise in that we need to make sure that we can communicate with different generations and kind of show the value that we can add to their businesses or their work.
Now, one thing we're talking about are these masterclasses you guys are going to be running a little bit later on in the year. What exactly are they and why do them?
So Flibl masterclasses, we're launching for the first time with 6 courses covering things like journalism, travel writing, brand storytelling, PR, and actually how to be a digital nomad, how to travel the world and make a living. And they're really designed as a kind of short introduction to a way that you can build a career, a way that you could do a career change, or how you can be more effective in what you do, largely through sort of taking a collaborative and technology-driven approach. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay, but when you were coming through, were these sort of things you wished had been available? Because there's standard education, you can do courses in most things, but does this maybe fill a gap that wasn't there before?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, I would have loved to have these kind of opportunities, but they're only really available if we travel to London, and the train tickets themselves can kind of be quite prohibitive when you're trying to fund your way to do these courses.
And is that something that you've seen yourself, that maybe a lot of things were only in London and it's time some came here instead? Yeah,
absolutely. I think Jessie and I both, as teenagers, sort of travelled to London for festivals and for events and for classes of different kinds. So to kind of bring that to Norwich is something that we, in our hearts feel is really important. I think it's also interesting. I previously ran some Guardian masterclasses. I still do a few now for the Guardian newspaper. And actually a lot of Norwich folks come to see me in London, so I was really keen to stop that kind of prohibitive ticket cost thing when it comes to the trains, and just bring it here, not ask people to stay up very late getting back after a course in London.
We do love those trains back. But thinking about the older generations, traditionally the model is if you are younger, you learn from older generations. Do you feel that in this situation, younger generations with some of these more modern technologies, modern ways of working, can actually help people who've maybe been in the game, in business for a lot longer?
Well, I think with the rate that technology is changing these days, there's always something new to learn, and there's no shame in learning from someone younger. I think everybody needs to be speaking to the people who are most skilled and most knowledgeable in the fields that they work. So it's not about age, it's about experience.
But ultimately, as a startup here in Norwich, is it a good place to start up? Is it a welcoming place? Is there a good bed to actually start up in this place?
Absolutely. I think there's a really kind of natural collaborative spirit about Norwich, and that's something that we've really tapped into with our work and our approach to doing business. So I think it's a fantastic place to start up. We've got a genuine community here who are incredibly supportive. Where we are in Fuel Studios right now, where we have our offices, we have about 20 companies here, and we consider them all to be friends, our Fuel family.
And just to finish with, it's a question I do have to ask, where did the name Flibl come from? Because I don't think it's in the dictionary anyway.
Oh, it's a complete nonsense that came from the back of my head, and we really should figure out a story for it, but we don't want to pretend like there is one.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I will make a mental note not to visit the back of your head, although it sounds a very interesting place. Thank you very much indeed, Lauren, Jessie. That is all the time we have on Business Extra for tonight. We've been looking at millennials, startups, and frankly what the older generation could maybe learn from the new generation of entrepreneurs coming through. As ever, you can stay in touch on Twitter. We are at MustardTV. The hashtag is Business Extra, and we're back at the same time next week. Have a very good night.
course, touching the lives of local people every day.